policy showing the above named management company as additionally lost paid.
Okay, so two things you need to do when you take a property subject to. You need, apart from making sure you have proper paperwork, do you understand that this is not just a purchase agreement being signed, it's in a whole packet. Two things you need to do. Number one, you need to get the statements, the mortgage statements sent to you. A reason why this is important, how many of you have ever had your property insurance go up? Yeah, it goes up. What about property taxes change, right? That means the mortgage amount, especially, you know, if it's a principal and interest with taxes and insurance, it could adjust. That $1,000 a month payment could now become $1,500 or whatever. So you want to make sure you're paying from current statements.
I also get their login to log into the bank. And if they're not feel comfortable, I don't normally say, hey, what's your password? Say, go in to the bank, change your password, because it's normally the same for a bunch of other stuff. Change it to something you don't do for anything else, and then I'll log into the bank, and basically I just make online payments. I don't send in checks, I just make them online.
And look, say, hey, look, we'll keep this password. You can, you know, you can look in yourself too.
That's another key factor, because if they've never understood it, and that last little piece, if they feel like you're not going to make the payment, say, look, hey, you can log in anytime and see that the payments are being made. And even if that doesn't work, and I know the equity is 30, 40 grand, I'll say, tell you what, I'll put 3 payments ahead. And anytime you can log in and see we're 3 months up ahead on your mortgage, and you don't have to worry about any of that.
Question. You said that you put this in your LLC. Do you have an LLC designated for, because
Short-term stuff, yeah.
property management? Because I'm.
Well, I don't, they're on a,
It's just
when I do a
something-
lease option, there's really not any property management, because it really kind of manages itself. A lot of times, I don't really.
I think that's more, it's more of a term to the bank to just understand
Yeah.
what your role in the transaction is.
Right.
To not, because again, like, I'm the subject to payment maker. No, like, that's going to throw them off. It's just the way that they can understand your role in transaction.
Yeah.
But I do that for every property individually,
Yeah.
LLC.
No, not individually.
Okay.
I'll do 3 or 4, maybe 5, depending on different things, but they're all short-term, and they're coming into LLC and leaving same year mostly. Unless, now if I do lease option tenant buyers, then maybe 1 or 2. It depends on if they're 89,000 or 300,000, you know.
So
Just be more
let's start closing out here with what are some any do's and don'ts finals with subject to?
A lot more people will do this. I would bet any seller that you've gone to, if there was a mortgage on the property, I bet if you pitch it right, 90% of them would do this.
If they've got a
90%.
problem you can solve.
This solves the majority of the problems.
But think about it, it doesn't have to be foreclosure, it could be, I just need to be able to move by this date,
Yes.
right?
It's so, I'm telling you right now, stop thinking like an investor and start thinking like a problem solver. That's what they're inviting into their house.
And that's
Your
what
card
gets the
says
yes.
investor, but it needs to say problem solver, because that's really what they're wanting. They're wanting you to solve their problems.
Okay, anything like, okay, so obviously there's the paperwork and things like that. Any other final things before we start to wrap up here?
I think you just need to do your first one, just to get it out of your system. Because the first one's the most intimidating, and you're shaking in your boots. And then you're less shaking your boots on the second one, and by the third or fourth one, you're like, what was I so scared of? This is crazy.
So
You know?
understand the paperwork plays a role in this,
Yeah.
your team plays a role in this. Alright, cool. So for me,
And you can do a quick close.
yeah, you can.
do super quick.
You can do it like, hey, I can meet you tomorrow, as
Yeah.
long as we can check out that there's nothing else on the title,
Yeah.
right? If there is, I need to know about it, okay? That's a very big part here, right? If you're taking over this mortgage, but all of a sudden there's a SBA loan on there or something, you need to be mindful of that. That's really important. So it's going to be worth to pay, the title company $200 to run title, whatever it'll cost you, because you'll know what you're getting into. The other thing is, let's really quickly, what happens if the owner goes through bankruptcy down the line?
You refi it, you sell it, you do it just like any other property. You can do a lot
So,
of different things.
Because this is a debt still tied to their name, you need to be aware that because it's tied to them, when they go to bankruptcy court, they may say, name all the debts. They're going to pull all the debts still tied to them. And that you may need, that's one of those things where you seem to be cognizant of some of the ways that it can flare up, which is where you need to have an exit strategy. List it on the market, sell it, but you need to understand, maybe go refinance it, do whatever.
You can do it, if the worst case scenario, I mean, you can just call the bank and say, look, hey, I'll just sign you over the deed in lieu, done.
Yep.
Walk away, you've already leased optioned it for 8 years, you've collected all your money,
You
there was
can
no
give it back
equity
to
in
the
it to
bank,
begin
yeah.
with. You can just deed in lieu it back, like, all right, out and do that. What's funny is, I bet they will reverse. They'll just put the car in reverse and go, whoa, wait a minute. The only loan that I've had called due was the one that was a divorce. They called and said, hey, I saw that the title was transferred. We're going to be calling the loan due. Is there anything that you're going to be doing to, how long will it take you? I'm like, well, I'm not going to be refinancing this. I'm not going to do anything with this. This property is in a bad area, and if I start managing it, I can't tell you what kind of condition it's going to be in when you get it back. So if you want the property, you can have it. 15 minutes later, I got a call from their manager and said, disregard the previous call. You're doing just fine. The payments are being made. You just keep making those payments.
So, okay, so let's say this because we do need to wrap up here. But understand this, banks lose money when they take over properties, so understand that you can find some workable solutions here. Maybe that can demystify the due on sale cost part.
You just need to talk to the right person at the bank.
Yes.
That understands the real ramifications of them taking, well, here's something else too. Let's say if it's an FHA or VA, right? They have private mortgage insurance on it, right? Well, if they're calling a loan due that the payments are being made, who takes a hit for that?
The servicer.
The PMI, right? So all you gotta do is call the PMI and say, did you know that on this bank, they're calling the loan due that the payments are being made? Do you think they'll get a call from the PMI?
So real quick, maybe that's going over your head, things like that. What you need to learn for some of these things is he is a professional problem solver. You understand? Right? All right, let's go ahead. Bob, do you mind coming and sharing like some tax-wise, some things we need to be thinking? At the end of the year, so I've got some subject twos that we're doing that he's tackling. Okay, for those of you who are doing your taxes right now, I asked him to come and share some things. How do you tackle it? If the mortgage is still in their name, but you're making the payments, what benefits can you get?
So you get to, the person who actually makes the payment gets to take the deduction. It's the way it works in the tax law. So if you're making the payments on the house, obviously you get to take the deduction, even though the 1098 goes to the IRS.
That's the interest.
That's the interest statement from the mortgage, goes to the IRS and is pointed at their social security number, you still get to take it. If the IRS ever comes in, you can say, well, I made all these payments. And they're gonna say, well, you did, okay, and then walk away. It's like, you get the deduction. Now,
What about depreciation?
you get the, you bought the house. The house is yours. The note came with it. It's just not in your name. So you have an asset on one hand, which is the house. You have a note on the other hand, which is the mortgage that goes with the house. So you treat it as if you bought the house from an accounting standpoint, even for tax standpoint. There's no difference there.
So this is
Except the note's
helpful.
not in your name.
When I started
Best
doing
case.
multiple creative deals, it's been helpful to have someone who understands the deals that I'm doing. Just because imagine going to explain this to your CPA. No, seriously, I did it. I think I went through 4 or 5 of them, and they're like, wait, what are you doing with your deals? Like, I thought you were flipping. I'm like, bro, that was like a long time ago. Get caught up. So, but here, because I'm like, hey, I want the biggest tax benefit, right? It sweetens the deal if I can maybe take less than I can take a $10,000 off the, upper line, right? Like, that's a part of the deal. There's all these different ways you can have benefits. Anything else? So the 1098, the interest form that you get from the mortgage company, if you've got a mortgage, you've received this type of form before. The depreciation.
You get to deduct anything that you've paid. So, the bank is, in some cases, the bank's making the interest and the property tax payments. But you're also, you took that escrow account over subject to also. So it's your account at this point. So you get to deduct when those are made on the equity, on the escrow statement that you get.
Yeah, you
So-
get that back.
But, and the other thing is Justin asked me the other day, it's like, what if you get, like, end of the year and you made a few payments, but you get the 1098, do you prorate that interest, whatever? It's like, no, if you paid enough cash to cover that interest amount that's on there, that's your deduction. You know, it doesn't matter that you didn't, you know, whatever, it's like you just,
You don't always
That's your
buy on
deduction.
January first,
Right.
right, for the whole year, sometimes you buy August. So I had some, was there anything else? Thank
That's
you,
it.
appreciate
Alright,
it, so that's really helpful. I bought some subject twos, and then I sold them. Here's the reason why the paperwork is correct. It matters and it's important is, when I sold them, there was the extra. Has any of you guys ever paid off a mortgage or sold something and where they sent you a check afterwards with the leftovers, the overages in the escrow account? Any of you guys ever had that happen before? It can be like a few grand sometimes, right? So I had that in there where I said, look, when I take this over, I'm taking over everything going on. That includes maybe if they prepaid into some things or whatever that looks like with the escrow account. And when I sold them, I sold a handful of properties in Hammond. I bought a guy's portfolio of rental properties. When I sold it, it was like a $2 or $3 grand check made out to him. He met me at the bank because of our paperwork. Usually people go get that check, they say, no, sucker. Well, guess what? I went over it up front. Said, hey, if I go to sell these at some point, this is gonna happen. Look, I'm gonna get with you when that happens. And look, so I called him, I said, hey, we're getting up to sell this house. Just letting you know, what I'll do is, probably about, a week or so, maybe 2 weeks after the transaction, you might get a check from the bank. If you remember, we went over this in the paperwork and you signed off on it, give me a call. This is money that we've paid into the property, and I can just meet you, I met at the bank, or that was the easiest. We just met at the bank, cash it out, thank you, sir, bam, went on the way, right? All right, let's go ahead end it here. I think we're over here. Time-wise, I'm bad at that. I need a clock.
I think probably the biggest thing to understand about this is that a lot of investors look at deals that you're buying cash and you're buying properties that need a lot of work. Stop thinking just like that. Start buying more pretty houses that don't need any work, that don't eat up any of your time, because you can solve more problems with better tools in your tool belt. Because when you look at the investors across the board, the vast majority of them are one-trick ponies.
Yep.
They're cash buyers. The minority of them are going to be ones that have a full tool belt full of stuff, and every time they go into a house, they walk out with a deal. I know plenty of investors that are going and buying or spending a lot of marketing money to get hundreds of leads every year. I maybe get 30, 40 leads a year, but over half of them, I'm buying.
Because you have multiple tools in your tool belt.
Yeah, what's crazy is this 2 and 3 and 5% when you're going, it's like turn and burn. But if I'm going to a house, I'm getting a deal. I'm making money out of this deal somehow. Because I've spent time with them. And here's another thing is, if you're doing this type of transaction, is you're going to have to establish trust. On the way to do that is that you're going to have to build rapport with the seller. You don't bring up any kind of way of dealing with how you're going to buy the property. And this is a very important part. Don't make an offer or think that you're going to be buying the house a certain way or give them any kind of implications until the second hour that you're there. Give you an idea of what kind of rapport you have to build to be there. But if you're going to be there an hour and a half, 2 hours,
If you're being transactional,
you've got the deal.
you're going there, hey, I need to know if you're going to sell this to me subject to, because I need to go, right? Like, when you're dealing with the seller, you figure this one out. You figure out how to give out this one. I always hate to figure out how to give out books. If you're just going in, you said, Mr. Seller, Mrs. Seller, hey, I'm here today to talk to you. Are you going to sell this to me subject to or not? If you're going in there and being black and white on, just trying to get in and get the transaction, not going to work. Cole, we met at PJ's earlier. I told you I bought a portfolio of houses. That's where I bought this subject to deed. Bought the guy a coffee, sat across from him at PJ's. I don't drink coffee, but I think I got water or something like that, right? We met in Hammond, talked about this, talked about what was going on, and by the end of it, the guy's giving me all of his property subject to. He's like, look, I got this one when it becomes available. You want it? Yep, call me, right? He's still, like, he butt dialed me like a few months ago, and he was like, oh, I'm so glad to talk to you. Isn't that crazy? So, all right, let's go ahead, finish up here. This is a technical way. It can be seen very technical, but at the end of the day, it's doable. So, let's get out some books here. Here, Paul, you want to?
What's crazy about this too is that a lot of times, if you're not spending a lot of time reading books, doing the audios or Audible or something like that, you need to brush up on your people skills. People skills is the #1 skill for real estate investing. You think it's cash, I'm telling you right now, it's people skill. Because you make so much money on the purchase. You spend it when you sell, but you make your money when you buy.
Well,
And that's how you buy it. You buy it with solving the problem.
we're not in the house business,
No.
and that's where people get tripped up.
All
All right.
right, so first, so I said 2 rules. I have 2 rules for subject to. What are the 2 rules?
Verify your assumptions.
That's it.
All right.
So,
Which book you want? You want the woman book? You
The
want the
woman
Why
book.
People Buy? Or 7 Habits of Highly Effective People?
Psychology.
We'll go with that.
Tried to
one.
sell your
I
book.
was like, wait a minute, what?
Psychology. He said psychology. He's trying to sell it,
Why,
right?
why?
Real
Okay,
estate investing has a lot to do with psychology.
Yeah.
Who here attended the Wild Women of... No, I'm just kidding.
He's probably the only one.
Wait,
right
did
here.
you
He's
attend?
probably the only one back in 2002.
All right. You got another question? Someone want to contribute here?
What does subject to stand for?
Subject to a mortgage,
But what's it technically called?
an assumption.
No, when the actual subject to is short for subject to existing financing. Subject to
So I heard you
existing
say.
financing.
I heard you say it here.
Yep.
And you say it? Was that you? You said
Existing.
existing.
Yeah.
You want the woman one, or you want 7 Habits? This is a rich dad, women who invest.
Sure. I'll
Sure.
try that one.
Okay, this one. Okay.
Thanks.
All right, last one. You see how difficult this
Thanks.
is? This is probably the hardest thing for me.
All right. The last one. What's my name?
Justin.
What's my name? Ah, okay. There we go. Was this one right there? Yeah. I knew it was one of those.
I need a new one.
Well, you guys, I appreciate Justin. He came out all the way from Gulfport area. How many of you guys, I know we talked about a lot of different things. How many of you guys got something that you could go look into taking action on? Yeah? Okay, cool. So here's the thing is, find something and go apply it, please. All right? So this is me in your corner saying, I want to see you doing more deals this year. Find something from tonight. Maybe that's just, hey, next time I walk a house, I'm going to include the dang car in the offer, you know?
That's right.
All right. Hey, Thursday, the webinar for realtors and investors at 1 o'clock. So 1 hour webinar. If you need more info, just message me. But April 13th, come back here. We're going to talk about the art of a joint venture deal. Thank you so much. Please give it up for Justin Allen.
Hey, I'm down.
Good.
So I just